This is Friedrich Hundertwasser. He was an Austrian artist, born in Austria, but spent the later part of his life in New Zealand. And he was an architect as well as a painter. He worked in different media, but he's best known for these works that are very whimsical and free flowing, full of patterns and very spontaneous. Not only in his paintings, but also his architecture as well. In his architecture, he was known for sort of two big philosophies, two big ideas that he advocated for. One was sort of the window right, as he called it, and he said that anybody living in an apartment should be able to reach out the window and paint anything within their arm's reach, so that they can sort of claim their space and make it their own and personalize it. He felt very strongly that people should have that freedom and not everything needs to be neat and orderly. And the other thing that he really advocated for was the obligation for people to plant trees. He felt like if we are seeing constant reminders of nature, we will be reminded that we are nature's guest and behave accordingly. And so he was really interested in how people relate to their surroundings. And one of his famous works was a painting, sometimes translated as wearing hats. Some people translate it as the hats we wear. But in it, we can see these figures that are wearing hats, and I like to think of this as a good sort of metaphor for, like, people talk about, okay, I'm going to put on my teacher hat now. I'm going to put on my parent hat now, like sort of taking on those different roles. And so what I'm going to do is make a self-portrait wearing a hat inspired by Hundertwasser. And the idea here is what I want to do is have lots of free flowing, spontaneous designs. I want to fill the hat with different things that make me happy, and also think about the different hats that I wear. So, I love music, so I put in sort of an abstracted musical note. I love making connections to different things, so I put in sort of a light bulb within that musical note. I also put in a sort of brain image in there. I like nature. I like going for walks with my family, so I put in a leaf design. I obviously, painting and art is a big part of my life, so I put in an abstracted paintbrush in my design. The idea here is it should be very free flowing and spontaneous, so I made it very colorful, lots of different line designs. As I painted, I wanted to allow colors to bleed and mix together, and I chose to make it all much darker in the hat to make those line designs pop and create contrast. I'm using a crayon resist here, so the watercolor paint sort of slides off the wax from the crayon. And then I just painted a very light, pale, peachy skin tone, and I'm going to make mostly a warm colored background, but again, I wanted it to be sort of more free flowing and organic and spontaneous and allow colors to drip and pool and get messy and flow into each other. So I'm using a very big brush for everything, lots of water to allow it to drip and let it spread and be more organic, kind of to go along with that mood or feel of Hundenhaus. I even put in some paint splatters and some random lines and things like that to go along with his ideas about not having straight lines. He said there shouldn't be straight lines. It shouldn't all be so neat and orderly. It should be a little bit messy, a little bit chaotic, allow room for spontaneity. And so I did that. I put in those streaks of colors and splatters, and just to create a little bit contrast and make sure that my design is still visible in the end. I put in a little bit of a heavier outline, and then I sort of spread the pigment across that background by just painting over it a little bit more with water to allow that heavy black line to sort of fade across the negative space. And again, just a few more line designs, just trying to get a little bit more color, a little bit more richness, a little bit more dimension to it all. But That's my design. Of course, you should be coming up with your own unique design. Think about what kinds of symbols would be meaningful to you. What kind of hats do you wear, or what kind of roles do you take on? What spaces do you occupy? And try to make a design that incorporates those different aspects of your identity into the hat that you're wearing.